When you look at all the corruption cases in Ghana today, the Buffer Stock CEO, the Wound to Make Gold case, the Galamsey case, Edu Boahin case, right, and the Gift Owari cases, all these corruption scandals that happen under the Akufo-Addo government, there's one person that I blame, and that is rapper Sarkodie. Why would I blame Sarkodie? I'll blame Sarkodie because I consider him as the biggest hypocrite in our Ghanaian setting, in our political setting, and even in the entertainment industry to a very large extent, right? Between 2012 and 2016, Sarkodie came across as a voice of reason. He came across as an economic crusader and a political activist. Through his songs, he was throwing jabs, he was coming across as fighting for the people. It was a good thing. At the time, the economic situation was very, very dire, right? Even though if you compare that time to now or under the Akufo-Addo government, we would all admit that things were better then than now, right? But even at the time, Sarkodie thought it wise that, he was supposed to actually rise up and use his voice and influence at the time to, push for the right things to be done. So he composed a lot of songs chastising the government of the day. He started with, Atamel. Then Sarkodie moved straight to, Dumsor. He made songs about Dumsor where he was calling on, President Mahama at the time to fix the issues. Everybody was actually, up in arms, and the situation was very, very, appalling, right? So he used his songs to actually champion those causes. He also did inflation. At the time, he was speaking so much about inflation and the fact that, Mahama wasn't competent enough and the economy wasn't working enough. Things weren't going the way they were supposed to go, and inflation was up in the roof. So the president at the time should do something about it. His songs were full of tree jargons and, local lexicons, and they were hitting very hard, right? So Sarkodie did that. The masses was more about, the people in the country and how, cost of living was difficult at the time for people and inflation was up high, the city depreciation. Like he made, salient arguments about state of affairs at the time. Now, fast forward to 2016 to 2024, we never heard from Sarkodie. And that's the biggest hypocrisy. When your party supposedly came to power, you lost your voice. In fact, Sarkodie moved away from speaking about socio-economic and political issues to actually, praise singing the president at the time. He did songs where he was actually endorsing Akufo-Addo and endorsing free SHS. Before he even did that, he did a song where he was featuring Akufo-Addo's voice. He was actually praising Akufo-Addo, praising the free SHS, and praising the people in power. He saw nothing wrong with the state of affairs. In between 2012 and 2014, 2015, 2016, he saw everything wrong with the economy. But between 2017, when Akufo-Addo took power till Akufo-Addo left power, he saw nothing wrong with the economy. And he sits in interviews, and when they ask him about how hypocritical he was and the fact that he wasn't true to himself and true to the people, he would be like, oh, but my people, benefited from free SHS and I enjoyed free water and free electricity. Sarkodie does not really understand what is really happening. Even if he understands, because of his inherited loyalty to a political party and to a certain group of people, so he does not even want to admit to the fact that the previous government was a mess. How do you actually defend a government in power by saying that they give you free water and free electricity and they give you free SHS? So those were the reasons why you were not actually, talking about the economy anymore, talking about inflation anymore. The freebies that were supposedly given to you were so important that, you moved away from talking about important issues to actually trumping out freebies. Sarkodie want us to consider you as a voice of reason and a reasonable member of the society, and want us to believe that because of the freebies that were given to you, they were so good that they were better than any economic intervention that the people could have made at the time. Bro, that is why I have this personal qualms with him, that I feel like he's the biggest, hypocrite in our setting. Right? Because if you consider the numbers, if you make the juxtapositions, if he was actually paying attention to what was happening on the grounds and in the state of affairs at the time, Sarkodie could have done like 20 songs about everything from 1D, 1F to planting for food and jobs to even to the free SHS of the food that the kids were eating and all that, to the economy, to roads, to infrastructure, to corruption. Bro, he could have done like 20 songs. And he could have become the fella of our time. But this guy decided that he was not going to speak about anything concerning Akufo-Addo and the NPP. That was the biggest hypocrisy. And today you want us to worship you, want us to still have some regard for you. Bro, nobody's doing that. Growing up, we all, revered and, respected you as a rapper. right? We thought that, you were neutral, you're going to stand on your neutrality and push for the right things to be done. You never did that. You never did that. And when you're questioning about Nana to us, you are giving flimsy excuses and flimsy reasons why you did that. And you want us to respect you, want us to accord you some necessary respect, and you want us to, hold you in that kind of highest. Nobody's going to fucking do that. Nobody's going to fall for the gimmicks, bro. Now let's do some comparisons. Let's compare 2014 to 2024, just a 10-year interval. In 2014, the inflation at the time was 17.0%. That was when Sarkodie was doing the inflation song. In 2024, inflation rose to 23.8%. And at the point it was almost at 50%. During the tenure of Akufo-Addo. Now, when it comes to the CD appreciation and the CD depreciation too, in 2014, the CD was around 3 Ghana cedis, 3.98 Ghana cedis. In 2024, it rose to almost 17 Ghana cedis. Sarkodie saw no reason to actually do a song about the economy. He saw everything right, about the economy in 2024. And wants me to consider this person as, everyone's of reason, wants me to respect this guy. I'm not fucking doing that, bro. The reason the Akufo-Addo government had a leeway for their appointees to actually fleece the pairs and to loot from the country is because people like Sarkodie were silent. People like Sarkodie who had the influence were not ready to speak. Everything actually relied on social media influencers like us who were making noise. We became more important than Sarkodie because Sarkodie saw the truth and decided to, turn a blind eye to the truth, right? The likes of Kevin Taylor were the ones rising up, the likes of Philly Jonas, because the ones that were supposed to do the job like Sarkodie, to use their music to do the job and stay consistent to who they truly are and who they believe they truly are, they were not ready to do their job. Probably because they were benefiting from the system or they were just being hypocritical. That was the reason Akufo-Addo felt like he was the best president. Even up to today, Akufo-Addo feels like he's the best president because those who were supposed to speak against the mismanagement and the gargantuan incompetence that was displayed by him, they weren't ready to speak. One of them is actually Sarkodie. It's one of the reasons why the country is where it is. All the looting, all the corruption, all the scandals. He's one of the reasons because he wasn't ready to speak truth to power. He was actually praising them. He was actually worshipping them. I don't know what he was getting from the government, but Sarkodie was ready to, bow down, sleep on the floor and be ready to, I don't fucking get it, bro. My personal beef with you is never going to end. It is a personal beef. And it's not even about your personal life or your family life or anything or your music life. It has to do with your political life. It has to do with who you truly are. When I watch those interviews where you're trying to justify all that, it bomb, it vexes me. Like, shut the fuck up and just accept that, the people that you're actually worshiping, the people that you're praising, they weren't good enough. They weren't good enough. So now if Mahama does anything, I'm going to speak about it because we'll be waiting for you. When Mahama came into power, he said, back to Garisokin's like, we never left. See, you people can try to rationalize that whole tweet and that whole post, but we know the intention behind it. Sarkodie is an MPP person. He can't run away from that. It is so obvious. No, be of so the one MPP ni anka obede. What I say, Obi Ofri Joaso in the Ashanti region, the one MPP na anka okra or family crab you are money ade, right? So we understand that you are MPP person. Stick to it. It is clear that the underlying motivation behind all the songs you did in the past against the Mahama government, the motivation came from the fact that you are an MPP person, not because you are fighting for the people. The MPP in you was actually the motivating factor. It was the fire burning in you that your government was not in power and things when supposedly not going on well, and you can't just hide your feelings, you can't just hide who you are. So that was what was gingering you and pushing you to actually do those songs. It wasn't because you were trying to fight for anybody and try to champion any causes. The moment MPP came to power, that fire in you died. It died because your party was in power and your loyalty was to them, your commitment was to them. And you were ready to serve them, not ready to serve the Ghanaian people, right? That is why the corruption that we are seeing today is gargantuan, it's unprecedented. The numbers, the figures, it's crazy. And I blame it on you, Sarkodie. So you can't run away from that. Maybe you need to render an unqualified apology to the people of Ghana that, you endorsed a system that was fighting against the people. You endorsed a candidate that was not fit for purpose. You endorsed a political party that was not ready to serve the people. Right? Because your words carry influence. So if you endorse Akufo-Addo, you're endorsing that everything he was doing at the time was the best. You're endorsing the political party to a very large extent. And you're endorsing whatever that they were doing at the time. So it gave them the bravado to actually go out there and fleece the pairs and steal from us. because we weren't ready to speak. How can you be under a government for 8 years and you saw nothing wrong with the government? Where international communities were reporting on the government, local news was reporting on the government, and the whole atmosphere was just so bad as far as the government was concerned. But you, Sarkodie, saw nothing wrong with the government, because in 2021, during the COVID era, they flew you back to Ghana when you were locked up in the US. Bro, the biggest hypocrite in Ghana is Sarkodie. You people think it's Stoneboy or Shatawale or whoever. The biggest hypocrite is this guy, Sarkodie.
The nation is full of surprises. Missing that we still live in crisis. Cantamanto, Kokoshe and Yama prices. ECG for some who play one more tactics. And then a Dumsor watching on a pipe. Tonyama so ne ye bedum ne five. Fele wo gallon na save your life. When you anya de I want to be into our tight. Go phone point so na makofa pro. Process so call ya no buy the draw. Parliament for no more boy bro. Me Ghana hunto ma capio raw. You call your name and I be a chance and the boss be in the deep. Because the canal law could be Sasumisi. Trot crass, I have put on a see. Petro, you have to meti, but to mint a bottle could have 1 person wait to become. Casapra go change the sauce in the boom into Henry Copia with just straight to bedroom or Mampegi Yamawa Chassi. If you see will be any one water. The show so I will Papa Cratchi. I hope say baby $1 and do no swati. Internet a born it young fees. See Kenya wouldn't move here was a gish. Economy in the moon to Greece. A comtin a Ghana for the doing PTSD, pocket money, the Deco Crasso. At Orion Chembesi, Mimaso. Yet you'll be a friend so I have friends who are so one mind is a ya, says he a naso. This is for Munya Redia. Jemu Boko from a mafia. Wunyakoma, Wunim Webian, Gojina de Padomunka who said here. Yapan support us, Sengotamwa, Assemblyman, baby Chacontomwa, Assembly Kofi, Yokaya Wamwa, will be a Nico Bumpaya, the Tompabwa. Ah, Ebola so the Nwajim, Uhia Bubro, Yadaswatim, Edu about to Anabusho be a name. I want you on the bar, no you know who film. Says they prepared the Yabuni thought. ECG France, the best you court. Dollar hunting, Concordia Macaport, will be a Mobos Yakos, will be a hot. Got economy, the name celebrity, cause pineapple juice in the Namsavi City. Yame photo, yes, I've been a mini-bee. One minor to Timinia, what a pity. Yentia Jimafuaka. Oko kanso ahoma swaba abato na mebetoafa cause ne emeto ama ne bia meniaha wo brema dwendwen ne de nipa bedi enti wanhwe ne yie pe na waba akokora bebi a cement akodunti se boys to foundation page said the strakotua